Okay, back on Project Conwreck, I'm going to name this one, because again, this locomotive was so badly messed up. I decided to go ahead with this project. As you see, I've already made some progress here. I found this smokestack off of a scrapped Dash 8 BW Amtrak Cascades thing. I had an extra one for parts. It was already in 3 different pieces, so I just used that to go on top in place of the smokestack. Horn is still the way it is. The railings need help, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. I have, again, tested this as you saw in the previous video, and the motor is, yeah, not so great. I've luckily been able to acquire a motor from Atlas. It should be compatible, at least. I have that on order. It's actually very close to me right now. It's in a nearby town according to the tracking number, so I should have that to work on this in the near future. Meantime, I'm going to focus on straightening up these railings. The one side, as you remember from the last video, wasn't too bad, although it could still use some help here. Here's one of these notches that keeps coming out. These stanchions. It looks, again, this engine was stored apparently with these stanchions completely out of whack. And the end result, they're just, the railing has just been bent to ridiculous proportions. See if I can get this thing back in place here. So we can just guide this one right into the hole. It's right there. It should go in, and there it is. Now it's going in. There we go. Okay, so I got that one in. This side is in pretty good shape, just with the exception of this stanchion here, which is not in proper shape. I'll take care of that later. What I'm more concerned about is this side of the locomotive. This is in this direction, facing the right side. As you can see, this is a complete wreck. So what I'm going to do is start working on this now and see if I can get this in resembling good shape. Problem is, the stanchions, as you see here, have been partly broken off. I'll zoom in a little bit deeper here so we can see what I'm doing here better. These stanchions have literally been broken off at the base there. They have little pegs that go inside these holes. So I'm going to have to glue some of these back into position. It almost looks like this one was glued already. Anywho, I'm going to work on that today. That's what I'm going to do today, is to get this thing in the best shape I can as possible with what little I have to work with. I'm going to use some just clear glue to glue all this back together. And my usual little bottle cap to put this in so I can control the glue flow better and let it dry out a little bit. That's the critical thing. You don't want the glue to be too wet because it'll take forever to set up. In this case here, I'm going to have to hold these pieces in place because the railing is so badly bent out of whack, as you saw, in order to get it to cooperate. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little of this Gorilla Clear Glue, which I picked up at Walmart a while back, and just give myself a little dab of that. Again, less is more. You don't need much of this to work with. Can actually put the bottle back now. I don't intend to use any more than this. And to apply it, I'm going to use one of these clear micro brushes, one of these jobs. In fact, I just finished using the box up. Got off the shelf at a Hobby Lobby. Let's go now and get a little glue on the tip here and start working on it. I'm going to have to probably grab this with a tweezer now to make sure I get this just right. Get this back into shot here. Ooh, I've got to be careful. One of the reasons why I detached the shell from the actual frame right now is so that I don't accidentally glue the thing together. It shouldn't happen with this type of glue, but just to be safe, I don't want to take a chance. Right there, those two are in place. I'm not sure how well that came out. Let me start doing this a little bit differently. Now I'm going to pull this one in place right here. Let me grab my tweezers. My sort of all-purpose tweezers, if you will. I'm not too concerned because this is never going to look perfect because of the condition it's in. I'm just trying to get this back to something resembling presentable condition. It's never going to be a showpiece, but it'll work. Hopefully. Okay, so now I'm going to just hold that in place. And I think if I just put a little glue there and just hold it in place, I can get it in. Let's now hold these down here. These two need to go like that. I got this one to actually stick a little bit. That'll help. What I do now is I'm going to actually put a little glue on top of these. Just put a little glue actually where these are right now and just try to get them in place. I find actually going over the top is actually a safer bet. This stuff tends to just disappear, so I'm just going to try doing that right now. And I'll actually, in this case here, I'm going to put a little glue right where this one needs to go. Just like a little blob there and a little blob right here. I know it's a little bit much, but it's hard to get just the right amount in here. I need just enough to make it stick. It's already a little bit crooked here. Oh, this one came out of its hole. Oh, boy, here we go again. It's going to hold that in place. This is going to be kind of boring at this point. I'm literally going to have to wait for the glue to dry and then move on to the next one because it's not going to hold it in place, it looks like. Okay, we are now back on the Dash 840B Conrail unit that was the high mileage junker / fixer-upper that I got a while back, and been working on this. As you see for the railings, it's another thing you'll note. This, as you see, much better than what they were before. I'll try to put in before and after footage as to how well I was able to get these back together. They're not perfect, but they're a heck of a lot better than what they were. This side is the worst of it that I was showing you here. You can see where I had to put all the glue in place. The problem being, again, these were so far bent out of shape, I could not get them to come completely flat again because they were so badly messed up. Unless they're in shape, they will work. The engine has been lightly weathered, so it kind of goes along with the theme of the model, so I guess I can get away with that. I could always weather this to make it look a little bit less shiny. The glue I used is this clear stuff. At the same time, the glue, while it does make things look a little too shiny, it's much better than having the crazy glue stuff, which leaves this nasty white residue over everything you glue together. So overall, I think I'm going to be happy with this. The horn I'm just going to live with for the time being until that breaks off. I don't know who did this repair. It looks like someone just used crazy glue on that, and it went all over the place. That's just going to have to be like that until I can get a better horn for it. I will look around and see if I can find a deal on a horn. Oh, actually, look, this is actually coming off. And this is a real bodge right over here. Like, there it is. That's the glue off of it. I'm going to leave the horn like it is, just like that. And whenever it breaks off, and I'll put a new one on when I get the part in. So that basically takes care of the body. Now, the drivetrain. As you remember, I ran this and it sounded like a dying cat, which has become a phrase I've used a lot. Oh, wow. It's got commutator whine. I don't know if you can hear that. Yeah, so this is not in great shape, to put it mildly. This is going to need a complete overhaul. I'm going to have to really take this thing apart and work on it, it looks like. That said, I recently finished the other project I had, another B40-8, the Norfolk Southern model I had, and that one sounded like a dying cat too. In fact, here's the motor from that one, right over here. And despite me replacing this motor, which does have a high spot on it, it still runs pretty terribly. It's shocking that happened. So I've gone to the conclusion that I should not replace these until they fail altogether. This is the earlier type of motor you can actually lubricate. So I'm thinking I'm going to try this other locomotive one more time. I'm going to try lubricating the commutator on this and see if I can make it work any better than it was without changing the motor, because I haven't really touched this one yet. Again, feeling it like this, it does seem to run pretty smooth. If I can't, I can't, but this is the time to give it a shot. If not, I might even try swapping this motor from the other engine out, because I find that there isn't much difference. This does have a high spot on it. I've tried to lubricate it out, and it still has it. I don't know what's causing it to have this high spot. It almost looks like it's a factory defect on these motors. I know if I put pressure on it and I squeeze it down, it has a hard time spinning. So it almost feels like this case on it is too tight. If I squeeze down on it like this, I just notice it's really biting down. I wonder if I can bend away and break some of this plastic off the side, and if that would do it. So I have to start working on this. Maybe I can get this motor to run smoother and just use it, because that'd be great if I could. But anyway, let's get back on this and see if I can do something with this motor. Let's try adding a little conductive lubricant on that. Right here, I still have some of that. Let me get a cap and I'll set myself up for this. Okay, I'm all set up now. Got my cap, got my brush that I use for this. Going to go ahead now and put a little conductive lubricant in here. Again, this is the Easy Lube line from Bachmann. Any conductive lubricant we'll use, basically. This is just what will work, obviously. I'm just using this because I happen to have it. Nothing wrong with it. It's just easier to get a hold of because it's right off of Amazon. Atlas makes a brand of this which actually works better in my opinion, but this is what I happen to have. And admittedly, it's easier for me to get a hold of because I can use my Amazon points off my credit card to buy it. Let's get a little of this in here. A little bit on my brush, and now go right in here. I'm going to take you down to 3 if this thing will cooperate with me tonight. Having camera problems, I had some earlier. This can also be used as track cleaning fluid, but you shouldn't do it, because it'll make things more slippery, because it's also a lubricant as well as a conductor. So again, I'm going to just touch the commutator with the brush and spin it over a few times. I don't think I actually did that with this motor yet. Piece of hair, I don't know where that came from. Okay, that's all set there. Let's now grab the trucks for this and get it back together. only going to assemble this enough to test it. Got my trucks and my little parts bin for this locomotive over here. I always have a parts working bin for each locomotive I work on, so I can keep the parts separate. Although, admittedly, I managed to make a huge goof where I put the parts from one project into another one. Most recently, it gave me a heart attack, and I ended up ordering a part, and as it turns out, they were in the other parts thing. I didn't even think of it until it was too late. But anyway, it was a very inexpensive part. It was like a few bucks, so it wasn't a big deal, but still, it would have been nice not to have made that mistake. Okay, so now I need to use Buzzy on this because this is an analog board on here. So let me go grab that. Let me go grab him. Plug this right in here. Move my conductive lubricant over so I don't spill it. There isn't much left in here, but just to make sure. And we go there. Put this on the track. Again, this is not DCC, so I'm not going to use that. Let me now jump out of here and give you 0.5. So you can see everything pretty well. I'm going to hook up my power pack to my power strip. This thing's going to start buzzing like crazy. I really have to get rid of this thing. I keep telling myself that. I have others I can use. I just haven't gotten around to pulling one out. Let's go plug her in. There it is. Okay, let me turn some throttle on here. Nothing. 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 I got nothing. Well, let's see here. The connections are in. Oh, there we go. I don't know what was going on there. And now, it sounded like it was running perfectly, but this actually runs better than the Norfolk Southern engine was. Yeah, I don't get that at all. This runs better than the Norfolk Southern engine, even though that was better taken care of. I don't get it, but I guess it is the luck of the draw. Let me actually now just lubricate the motor a little bit on the bearings with some 107 here. Because I think I'm going to just leave this motor in place now, since it's actually running better than the one I just finished working on. And considering that this is the stock motor that came with it, I might as well exploit it for what it's worth and just run it. And if it fails, I'll then consider changing it. As it seems as if no good deed goes unpunished when that applies on that. It's ever so slight commutator whine. Let me try putting a little bit more lubricant. Oh, pardon me, I hit you. Let me try putting a little more lubricant on the commutator, since I have this out right here. Because I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's doing it. It's weird. The one engine, which I thought would be in better shape and was, gave a much less desirable result than this, and that's after putting a motor in it. And I still have no idea why that one is rough running. It shouldn't be. I've tested it thoroughly, and there's no reason for it to run rough, and it does. The drivetrain is free. Everything else works fine, and it just doesn't like to run. And that's with a new motor. So everything in there that would have caused the problem should basically be in place to make it work the way it should, and it just doesn't. And yet this one, which has been abused and completely not taken care of, completely neglected very thoroughly, runs a million times better. I guess the other one was born under a bad sign. I don't get it. Yeah. Comment on the video if you've run into an engine like this that is seemingly born under a bad sign, if you will, and is just prone to just breaking even though it has no reasons to. So what I have here is an engine that should be like that engine that I'm having problems with, and it's fine. And the commutator whine went away for the most part, so I'm actually going to be happy with that, and I'm going to go ahead now and just drop the decoder in place. Because I've seen what happens when you change a motor on these. It doesn't always make things better. So I'm going to go ahead now and actually put a motor on, and not put a motor in this, just put a decoder in it and get it up and running.